Hey, welcome back. Today we're diving into something that might hit a little too close to home. People pleasing. That habit of always saying yes even when your heart is screaming no. Yeah, let's talk about why we do it, how it slowly destroys us, and what it actually takes to break free. Have you ever noticed how saying yes feels so much easier than saying no? It feels safe. It feels kind. It feels like the right thing to do. After all, who doesn't want to be liked, appreciated, or seen as dependable? But here's the harsh truth. Constantly saying yes to everyone else often means saying no to yourself. And over time, that habit of putting others first, of always pleasing, doesn't just drain your energy, it chips away at your identity, your mental health, and even your relationships. People pleasing might seem harmless, even admirable at first glance, but underneath the surface, it can quietly destroy your sense of self worth and leave you trapped in a life that doesn't truly belong to you. At its core, people pleasing is about survival. From childhood, many of us learn, consciously or unconsciously, that love, acceptance, or safety comes when we make others happy. Maybe you had parents who were hard to please, or teachers who rewarded obedience, or friends who only stuck around when you went along with their plans. Bit by bit, you learn the equation: if I do what others want, I get approval. If I don't, I risk rejection. It feels like a smart strategy, and in many ways it is, at least for a while. But as you grow, this survival tactic starts to backfire. The very behavior that once kept you safe begins to rob you of the ability to stand up for yourself, to make authentic choices, and to create a life that reflects your true values. The trap of people pleasing is subtle. On the outside, you might look like the nicest person in the room, the one who never complains, always helps, and never lets anyone down. But inside, you may feel invisible, exhausted, and resentful. You might catch yourself smiling when you're actually frustrated, nodding in agreement when you completely disagree, or bending your schedule until it breaks just to avoid disappointing someone else. And the worst part, nobody sees the cost because you've trained everyone around you to expect your yes, your sacrifice, your silence. Why does this happen? Psychology offers some answers. People pleasing is often linked to what's called conditional self worth, the belief that you're only valuable when you're useful to others. Instead of feeling worthy just for existing, you feel like you have to earn love and respect by being agreeable, helpful, or selfless. This belief can run so deep that the idea of saying no feels dangerous, even selfish. Your brain registers rejection as a threat, and so you avoid it at all costs, even if that means betraying your own needs. But let's be clear, always saying yes isn't kindness. True kindness is freely given from a place of choice. People pleasing, on the other hand, comes from fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as difficult. And fear-based kindness is unsustainable. It turns relationships into silent contracts where you give, and give, hoping that someday you'll finally feel valued. But that day rarely comes. Instead, you end up drained, burned out, and often surrounded by people who take your efforts for granted. Think about this. When was the last time you said yes, but you meant no? Maybe you agreed to help a coworker even though your plate was already full. Maybe you nodded along with a friend's opinion even though your gut screamed otherwise. Maybe you stayed in a relationship far longer than you wanted because you couldn't bear the thought of hurting the other person. Each of those moments might seem small, but together they form a pattern of self-betrayal. And self-betrayal, repeated often enough, erodes self-trust. You start to doubt your own instincts. You stop listening to your inner voice. You lose touch with what you really want. There's also a hidden cost to people pleasing that most of us don't realize. It breeds resentment. You might think you're avoiding conflict by always agreeing, but inside, frustration builds. You feel unappreciated. You feel unseen. You feel like nobody cares about your needs. But here's the paradox. How could they care if you never show them? By hiding your true feelings, you unintentionally teach people that your boundaries don't matter, that your time is always available, that your needs are secondary. And then, when the resentment finally explodes, it often shocks the very people you've been trying so hard to please. People pleasing also damages authenticity. The more you mold yourself to fit other people's expectations, the further you drift from your true self. You might wake up one day realizing you don't even know what you want anymore. Do you actually like that TV show you keep watching, or are you watching it just because your partner does? Do you really enjoy that job you've been grinding at, or are you staying because you don't want to disappoint your family? Do you genuinely agree with that opinion you voiced, or did you just echo what everyone else said to avoid rocking the boat? Over time, your identity blurs, and living without authenticity is like breathing without oxygen. You can survive, but you can't thrive. The health costs of chronic people-pleasing are very real. Studies show that constantly suppressing emotions and ignoring personal needs can increase stress, anxiety, and even physical illness. Your body keeps score. That tension in your shoulders, that fatigue you can't shake, that restless feeling at night. It could all be the toll of saying yes too often. Because when you don't allow yourself to express frustration, anger, or sadness, those feelings don't disappear. They sink deeper, where they fester, quietly harming your mental and physical health. Relationships also suffer in ways you might not expect. Ironically, always saying yes doesn't make people respect you more. It often makes them respect you less. When you never set boundaries, you teach others that they can ignore them too. And healthy relationships require boundaries. They require honesty. They require the courage to sometimes say no, even when it disappoints someone. Without those things, relationships remain shallow, unbalanced, and fragile. And deep down, people don't truly want a doormat for a friend, partner, or coworker. They want someone real. So what's the way out of this cycle? It starts with recognizing that your worth is not conditional. You are not valuable because you say yes. You are not lovable because you make everyone happy. You are valuable simply because you exist. This truth might feel uncomfortable, even unbelievable at first, but it's the foundation of breaking free. Once you stop tying your self-worth to how others feel about you, you begin to reclaim your power of choice. The next step is learning the art of saying no. And yes, it is an art, because saying no doesn't mean being cruel or selfish. It means being honest. It means respecting yourself enough to set limits. Start small. Say no to the extra task at work when you're already stretched thin. Say no to the social event when you need rest. Say no to the opinion that doesn't align with your values. Each no is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Over time, you'll discover that most people respect your boundaries far more than you feared. And those who don't, they're often the very ones who benefited from your silence. You can also practice authenticity in low-stakes situations. Instead of automatically agreeing, pause. Ask yourself, what do I actually feel? What do I actually want? Give yourself permission to speak your truth, even if it's uncomfortable. You might be surprised at how liberating it feels to express a real opinion, to share a real need, to let others see the full, imperfect you. Breaking free from people-pleasing is not about swinging to the opposite extreme and becoming selfish. It's about balance. It's about learning that kindness without boundaries is not kindness. It's self-destruction. It's about realizing that you can care for others and still care for yourself, that you can be generous without being exploited, that you can be loved without being perfect. And perhaps the most powerful shift comes when you realize this: saying no to others is often saying yes to yourself. When you decline that extra obligation, you say yes to rest. When you refuse to fake agreement, you say yes to authenticity. When you set a boundary, you say yes to self-respect. These yeses are the foundation of a healthier, happier life, one where you're not just existing for others, but actually living for yourself. So the next time you feel that familiar urge to automatically say yes, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, am I saying yes out of love or out of fear? Am I honoring myself or betraying myself? That tiny moment of awareness can change everything. Because when you stop living as a people pleaser and start living as yourself, you don't just free yourself, you create the possibility for deeper, truer, more meaningful connections with the people around you. The dark side of people pleasing is real. It drains you, diminishes you, and deceives you into believing that you must sacrifice yourself for others to love you. But the truth is the opposite. The more you honor your own boundaries, your own needs, your own voice, the more space you create for real love to grow. Not the kind of love that's earned by endless yeses, but the kind that flows freely when you finally show up as who you really are.